All right. We'll give them 2 more minutes and then we'll go ahead and get started. We had about 8 people sign up for this, so I'm hoping for a couple more, but hopefully this recording will be able to be sent out by email to other people and we'll share it that way. Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. And first of all, just want to say thank you so much for showing up tonight or taking the time to listen to this. I imagine that you're listening in so that you can get some information that will help you to understand why you're feeling maybe the way you're feeling, and then also just to understand some tips and tricks for that hormone balance that can make a lot of difference if you're able to institute some of these changes. And so I'm just really excited and thankful that you're here. Again, just to introduce myself, most of you are current patients or thinking about becoming patients, so you know me. But my name is Bethany Monty, and I'm a certified nurse midwife. I've been a certified nurse midwife for over 20 years now, which sounds a little strange to say because I really don't think that I'm old enough to say that. But maybe that's a good thing because I'm not feeling that old, so that's great. But yeah, I've been doing this for 20 years and been practicing more of a functional medicine approach for the last 4.5 years. And I have found it to be wonderfully challenging and has made quite a difference in my life and my patient's life. So I'm certainly excited to share this with you. So tonight is really talking about those tips and tricks for hormone balance. And I do really love this quote here: the body says what words cannot. Really and truthfully, that is the case. And here in the United States, we really don't listen to those little messages from our body. We're kind of taught to push them down and not listen to them. And so tonight you will probably feel like, oh gosh, I wouldn't think to talk about that with my doctor, or I wouldn't think to say that. And so I think that you'll be helped in how to be your own advocate when you are getting your own medical care. All right. So why do we even think about hormones being an issue, or what problems or chronic issues might we be having that is related to our hormones as females? And so first of all, that I see listed here is an easy one, and most of us here in the United States experience PMS, so premenstrual syndrome. And really and truthfully, PMS is actually not normal if it is starting to affect your everyday life. And so again, we've been taught, oh, just get over it, it's no big deal. However, that's not really true. That is your body's way of sending you a message that your hormones may be off balance if those symptoms are so strong that it really makes you modify your daily life right before your period or at the beginning of the period. So PCOS is an acronym for polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is becoming more and more common, and it is an autoimmune issue and a metabolic issue as well. Infertility, endometriosis, hormonal migraines or headaches, fatigue, low energy, menstrual cramps with your period. Those menstrual cramps, usually what normal is, yeah, they might bother you a little bit, but they don't make it to where you constantly have to take medication. You shouldn't be missing work or feeling nauseous or not eating, and you shouldn't have to take Vicodin or stronger pain medications. If you are experiencing that, then that is a sign from your body that your hormone levels are definitely not in balance and not considered normal. Even though maybe you've talked about it with your provider and they've said, oh, this is just normal. Here's a birth control pill. And that is the normal way of handling that issue. And I'd like to challenge that idea tonight and give you some other ideas and options that you can use instead of just taking a birth control pill or another pill. Oftentimes, I'm finding that women are having miscarriages or recurrent miscarriages, monthly breast tenderness that's more than just a little tender, but significant to where you're guarding yourself at all times during that moment that there's tenderness, sleep problems, difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, thyroid problems, weight gain, perimenopausal symptoms, so those hot flashes, vaginal dryness, and then night sweats. We can definitely make a difference by looking at your hormones with those. So ladies who are dealing with that, don't feel like you are just relegated to getting through it and just grinning and bearing it, or that you need to take a pill for everything. Anxiety and depression, so lots of mental health issues are related to hormones. Uterine fibroids, acne, coming and going or consistent. Cervical dysplasia really just means abnormal pap smears, chronic vaginal infections, certain food cravings, irritability and mood swings, regardless of being near your period, hair loss, irregular periods, low to no sex drive, osteoporosis, and then also thinking about mood disorders in pregnancy. Big thing that I want you to know is all of these things, if you are experiencing some of them or pieces of them, this is not just you and you're not making it up, and this is not all in your head. So there are a lot of women here in the United States that are experiencing a lot of these different issues. And we are really not talking about it in the medical community, but is becoming more and more prevalent that women are experiencing more and more chronic illness. And some of these are considered chronic illnesses. So I definitely want to elucidate that information for you. All right. So one of the core tenets of doing functional medicine or whole person care, integrative care, that's another word you might hear, is taking care of the whole person all together. So while the medical model that we currently have treats us otherwise, you are really not a bunch of untreated parts stuck together. You're a whole person, and every aspect of your life influences your hormonal balance and health, from your genetics to your diet to your job to your marriage, to the body products that you use, and to your neighborhood that's around you, your environment. Those are all different variables that can influence your hormone balance and your health for that matter. So this different approach of taking care of the whole person really allows for a more deeply personalized medicine, which traditional American medicine really has not embraced. Really, our payer system doesn't allow for this with the insurance model that we have. So even if your provider really did want to try and make a difference and do something different for you or give you more of a whole person care, it's really hard to get that amount of time or to have insurance pay you for it. So it's not that your providers don't want to, it's just that their hands are somewhat tied. As a result, most of those providers do fail to address the root causes, so the underlying causes for imbalances or illnesses. And so the goal is to get to that root cause. So whenever we're talking about root causes, I do like to think about, okay, where can those issues be coming from? And the first one may be that you have some nutrient deficiencies. So vitamin D deficiency is quite common. Magnesium deficiency is very common. Low iron is another one for women, especially if they have heavy periods or they've just had a baby and had a hemorrhage. That can lead to a lot of issues. So my goal is to look for those deficiencies, also to see what you're eating and make sure it's good quality, and or to encourage you towards that good quality so that we can nourish your body and replenish the things that you might be missing. Oh, it does not want to go. Let's see here. There we go. All right. So when we are talking about food, inevitably for a lot of us here in the United States, it sounds a lot like the D word. So I'll just say it, diet. I am not proposing that you do a diet. I am proposing that we really take a look at the quality of the food that you're eating and consider how it may be affecting you. However, for women who tend to get into functional or integrative medicine, sometimes we do see that things go overboard. And we have something called orthorexia. Sounds similar to anorexia, an eating disorder where you restrict calories and you might exercise more so that you can burn off the calories that you do eat. Well, orthorexia is an obsession with clean eating, and it can be accompanied by food restriction and control, and just feeling very anxious about your food choices. And then you're slowly restricting more and more food, and that problem just feeds itself. Then you feel worse, and then you're restricting more food. So our goal is to stay away from orthorexia. I do not have any goals for you to do weird diets that allow or have you do cleanses or juice cleanses or anything like that. We're looking at how can we nourish you the best possible. Oh, and sorry, just to go back to that, sometimes in functional medicine, we will be working with say allergies, or you might be having some gut health issues, some, constipation or diarrhea. Oftentimes the gold standard to figure out what's going on can be an elimination diet. And an elimination diet is a short-term diet to take a look and see what foods might be irritating you. That is a common thing that we do utilize. However, I really try hard to make sure we stay away from you feeling that pressure towards orthorexia. And then I do offer ways of helping you to get through that elimination diet time. All right. The next thing to look at is, how do I get women out of survival mode? And so survival mode basically is that stress that you're under most of the time, and you are just running from one stressor to another, maybe getting a little break, but not getting the full rest that you need. And there definitively is a connection between stress and your hormone balance. And if you constantly have this stress going on, the hormone balance continues to be persistent. So what is stress? I don't think I really need to tell you what it is. I'm pretty sure you know, but we'll dig in a little bit deeper for you. So stress literally means a strain or pressure that causes something to bend out of shape. So it's more than an emotional state of, oh, I'm stressed, I'm stressed. It's actually a series of physiological responses called the stress response. So it's actually how your body is responding to the different things going on in your life, and it all can start to add up. So this stress response is orchestrated by the HPA axis in the brain, and I can dig into that more when you see me, but it's definitely how your brain is coping with the stress. If you've heard the term cortisol, this is a part of that axis. The ability to respond and adapt to the stress that comes your way and still stay healthy is known as allostasis. So our goal is to stay in allostasis, which is balanced. Your body can handle the stress coming in. And it means that you are resilient. You're able to bounce back from that stress. However, for a lot of us, we are not in allostasis. So I really like this picture because it kind of gives you the idea of the load, that you might be carrying, or that some people are carrying. Another way to think about it is being constantly stuck in the on position. So your light switch is just always on and is hardly ever turned off. The stress response really was meant to be a short-lived response. So it wasn't meant for it to be a daily thing that just goes on and on and on, but it's meant to be for a short period of time, say 45 minutes, an hour, or maybe a day, but then you get respite. However, in modern living, we get too much of good things, things that do help us. However, we can have too much of that. And so we experience chronic activation of that stress without enough time and relaxation for resolution of that stress. So another term that we use regarding allostasis is allostatic load. The way that you can look at that is how much wear and tear you have that happens as a result of that repeated chronic stress. So the allostatic load is what we tend to look at, and how can we lessen your load? And then once we lessen the load, you can notice that your health starts to rebound. So how do we do that? What does that look like? So we really do need to heal the stress hormone pathway. And first and foremost, you just really have to take a radical, proactive stand in favor of your health. So just standing up and saying, I'm not doing this anymore, by getting out of that chronic stress mindset and into one that intentionally invites inner calm and peace and a slower rhythm with nature and the normal way that life is supposed to go, not one stressor to another. And I encourage you to take this stance right now, no matter what situation or environment you're in. If you can do this for yourself right here and now to stop that chronic stress, that is one of your biggest factors in getting to feel better. If you want to bring hormone health back into your life and get that balance there and reverse a major root cause of gynecologic problems, reducing stress has got to be your first commitment. Self-care is not selfish, it is self-preservation. So if you can see it that way, I think it tends to read a little bit different in our minds. So something that can feed into stress, or stress feeds into it, is thinking about your sleep. So I like this question: what's keeping you up at night? For some of you, it is a little baby that's in your bed or that you're breastfeeding. For some of you, it's your brain just going a million miles an hour and you're not able to turn it off and go to sleep. And so I find that most of my clients are having a sleep issue in some instance, and that just kind of fuels the flames of the imbalances that they're experiencing. So the biggest disruptor of your circadian rhythm, and that circadian rhythm is what the natural rhythm in your body that helps you to know when it's daytime, when it's nighttime, and when to lay your head down on the pillow and sleep. So the biggest disruptor really can be summed up in two words, and that is disconnected and overstimulated. We are constantly exposed to triggers that keep us revved up, especially at night, and we're also disconnected from natural external and internal sleep cues. So what that looks like is basically we are continuing to work until we even maybe put our head on the pillow by checking emails, checking Facebook, checking emails for fun or checking emails for work. Doesn't really make a difference. Your body sees it all the same. Or you are up watching TV until the last minute before you try and close your eyes. And what happens is, and I'm sure you guys have heard about blue light and trying to get that light out of our eyes so that maybe we do a better job in falling asleep. However, I find that a lot of people have a hard time making that adjustment to get that change in their life so that they aren't getting the blue light. So blue lights can come from your phone, come from the computer, from the TV. So if you can start to think about those things and seeing them as messages to your body that it's actually daytime and it's time to stay awake, then it starts to make sense as to why you shouldn't do that, or why you need to pull back from the electronics and the screens and the lights at least an hour, maybe even an hour and a half before you're going to try and lay down and go to sleep. So, and I've kind of dug into this already, but here's the solution. So basically, we need to reconnect to nature's intended rhythms, and we have to disconnect from those unnatural rhythms of our culture whenever we can. And it really is a cultural issue for most of us. So, sleep is the ultimate pause that your body needs to rejuvenate itself at the end of the day. So, it is the best medicine. If you are not getting good sleep, then anything that we do along the way may be just kind of like spitting in the wind if you're not getting some good sleep. And so this is probably my number 2 thing that I work on with women is getting enough sleep to fill your bucket. We got to fill the bucket back up. So what is the magic number? So the magic number is anywhere from 7 to 9 hours of good sleep every night consistently. And you really need that to reset your natural clock, to help that circadian rhythm to actually be in rhythm. So go to bed at roughly the same time every night if you can, and then wake up at roughly the same time every day. And if you can keep that rhythm, your body then starts to sense the cues of being tired better. You start to actually notice, oh, I'm tired, and that you may not be hungry, but you're tired, and to shut down the computer, turn the TV off a little bit sooner, hop into bed a little bit earlier, you will just start to see those cues better. They won't be so covered up. And getting up and going to bed at the same time helps you to notice those cues a little bit more. If you have smartphones, the smartphones now, most of them have a way of shutting down your phone or reminding you it's time to turn it off at a certain time, and then to wake you up in the morning. So there's lots of options to do that, or you can just use an alarm clock and your watch. All right. So, and there certainly is much more to talk about with sleep and how it connects with your hormones. Just to give you a little bit more, I'll go back just a little. Melatonin is the common hormone that we talk about with sleep. And melatonin actually in research has been shown to help with the ovaries and how they function. And they actually allow the ovaries to function to their best possibility. The research shows that women with PCOS do better when they take melatonin. Also with infertility treatments, when women are going to do their fertility medication, they do find that they ovulate better, have better egg production, and then go on to pregnancy when they added on 3 milligrams of melatonin to whatever medication they were using for the fertility, or for the infertility. And so that's quite interesting to me. And there's much more depth I could go into to explain how those are connected, but they definitively are. The other thing is that our body does all that rejuvenating at night. So rejuvenating means really being able to kind of cleanse itself and to heal whatever might have been broken during the day. And that gets down even to your mitochondria, your cell bodies that make all your energy and then also make your DNA. And so your body needs that good restorative sleep to do all of that work, from the very minutia of making your energy. And actually the ovaries are quite, let's say they put a drain on your energy. They need a lot of energy, much more than you would normally think. And so your ovaries are mandating this high amount of energy. And if you don't have it, and you don't have a way of, refilling your energy, then the ovaries will start to not work to their best potential. Another reason that happens is usually if you're not sleeping, you're stressed, and your body is going to be in that fight or flight or stressed mode. And your body does not want to get you pregnant when you're stressed, because if you got pregnant, then that would slow you down and make it to where, you're maybe not as healthy or you're not able to make it through the pregnancy. So your body knows to suppress ovulation to keep you from getting pregnant when you're stressed. And so that is a common finding, that if you are highly stressed, tends to be a sleep issue also, that the ovaries just don't get to do their best quality work. All right, so we'll move on. I always like to dig in a little bit more on that because I don't think women understand that connection. And I certainly didn't before I went down this path. All right, so the gut-brain axis, there's a powerful connection between what goes on in your intestines and your brain. It is a constant bidirectional communication. So bidirectional just means from the stomach to the brain and back and forth it goes. And it's a path, this pathway is very much important for us to understand. Oh gosh, there was something in my mind I was going to say. Now it'll come back to me. So we are actually seeing now, as there's more and more research being done on intestinal health or gut health, that really we should probably start to say that the gut is like the second brain, because we are finding that there's much more neurotransmitters, or those chemicals that affect your mood and your brain. So dopamine, melatonin, and also norepinephrine or serotonin, if you've heard those terms before, they actually are produced in a larger amount in the intestines and stomach than in the brain. So that's quite interesting. So, for a lot of women who experience gynecologic problems, we do find that either women are struggling with constipation, abdominal bloating, or it may be the other extreme where you've been diagnosed with IBS, so that's irritable bowel syndrome. We notice that when women have those things, they also have a higher rate of endometriosis, uterine fibroids, depression, anxiety, and so the list goes on and on. So they are definitely connected. So if you look at this first bit of information, per research, the people who live close to and closest to the ancestral ways of life have shown that their microbiome diversity far outstrips the rest of us who are living this modern industrial life. So basically, microbiome is that balance of bacteria that is in your intestinal lining. And so when we look at the research of those people that are living on the land and haven't really changed to our modern diet and the modern way that we live, their balance of the microbe in their intestines is far better than ours. You want your gut to be like an ideal Amazon rainforest of an abundance of symbiotically thriving life forms. So basically, you want to have a bunch of different bacteria and maybe some yeast and just a combination of things that keep a nice check and balance, but are nice and healthy, and a large amount of them. Instead, for most of us, especially in the United States, the situation is a bit more like deforestation. So reduced diversity, so there's not many different kinds of bacteria and other little microbes in there, but it's like a one note. Stripped soil, if you want to think of it that way, like there just isn't all the minerals and the value in the soil that you need. And that definitely is the case in the intestinal lining. And then also a loss of species resilience. So just like in the rainforest, if you take away a certain amount of the trees, then some of the animals die off. The same thing holds true in the intestinal lining. If we don't have the certain protection of those trees and all that foliage, then other bacteria that need to be there for it to function get washed away as well. So when the type or number of bacteria gets messed up, you can think of it that way. And when you lose diversity of the types of bacteria, fungi, and viruses, your gut can no longer perform its best hormone regulating functions. This disruption is referred to as intestinal dysbiosis. So, if you're looking into functional medicine, most likely you might have heard that term, or another term can be leaky gut. And so, if you do not have the proper amount of bacteria or even the proper type of bacteria, those proper or good bacteria, they make certain chemicals that then allow your body to break down your foods that you're eating. So, your good fruits and vegetables that you're trying to eat, if you don't have this certain bacterial chemical that's being produced, you will not break down those foods. And those nutrients that you should be getting from those foods are actually used to help you with your estrogen and your progesterone. So it starts from that gut lining issue and can affect the hormones from there. And again, there's certainly more to discuss, but I'm just kind of getting to the surface for you. All right. So, what disrupts the gut balance? And I'll try and pick it up a little bit more for you. Childhood exposure. So, the gut health starts at birth by exposure to the mother's microbiome as they pass through the vaginal canal, and then also with breastfeeding. And then also childhood exposure to soil, animals, and then also what was your diet like when you were a child? Number two is that circadian rhythm disruption, as discussed previously, and then also consider stress and history of trauma can be highly connected with irritable bowel, is what we see quite a lot. And then also diet. Are you eating ultra processed foods? Are you eating are you eating a diet that's high in saturated fats, artificial sweeteners, alcohol? Then also gluten or other food triggers can be something that you might be dealing with. And then chemical exposures. So environmental toxins such as herbicides and pesticides that can be on our fruits and vegetables, and that our animals that we might be eating are eating those fruits and vegetables. And then also antibiotic overuse, and then the overuse of other medications that can cause imbalances that are over the counter and that, nobody's telling you, oh, don't take that. Oh, don't take that, because it can cause imbalances. All right. So, what is the solution for gut health and to heal that portion of your body? And number one is to eat for your gut health. Have a plan in mind. So, you want to eat omega-3 fatty acids, butyrate, L-glutamine, and zinc-rich foods. And you can certainly look those up. Eat more plants. And I like to use that term, eat the rainbow. So eat every different color of fruits and vegetables, and then you know that you're probably getting what you need. Herbs and spices like turmeric, ginger, basil, adding those into your foods. Prebiotic foods, onions, cabbage, asparagus, nuts, and seeds. Prebiotic just means, think of it as kind of like fiber, or the food that the probiotics hook themselves to, and then that helps to populate your gut because they have something to hold on to. Probiotic foods, or take a probiotic supplement. Number two, practice mealtime mindfulness. So if you can slow down and savor your meal, turn off distractions. So try not to be eating your meal while you're watching TV, because then you won't realize how much you're eating. And then also we tend to like just take big gulps and shove food down our throat. And that becomes a problem because we're not chewing our food. And then also if you can eat with joy and have that mindfulness of like, this is a good meal and I'm enjoying this, that tends to help with the not being hungry afterwards and having some satisfaction. Then also number three, get going. So healthy elimination, a daily bowel movement should be easy to pass, not foul smelling, and in one single piece. So if you're finding that you're a bit more constipated and it might be like an every other day situation for you, then you are probably not able to get rid of some of the extra hormones that you may have from your environment that can cause an imbalance. And then if you're having diarrhea and going too many times, you may find that you have deficiencies because everything's just kind of moving through you a little too fast. Number four, have a gut healthy lifestyle. So stress less, sleep more, be a dirty girl. So gardening or an activity that brings you into contact with the soil, plant life, pets, or animals. So for all of you that live out on the farm or way out in the country, good for you. You're doing a good job. And then step five, avoid unnecessary pharmaceuticals. So those over-the-counter medications. So NSAIDs are like ibuprofen or naproxen, proton pump inhibitors. That's a fancy word for Pepcid, Zantac. Pepcid and Zantac are the main ones. Antacids, Tylenol, which is acetaminophen, or then birth control pills and antibiotics. And then also step six, next level supplements for gut health. So all the above steps universally should help balance that gut lining, and taking some of those away or adding some of them can definitely make a difference. However, if you have definite gut symptoms, or you think that your gut might be a bigger root problem for you, you'll want to move to that next level of looking into your gut health. And that's certainly something that I do in my practice. All right, so the next thing that leads to hormone imbalance is something called oxidative stress. So kind of a big word, and what the heck does it mean? So as you can see, this pipe, the rust and how it's being eaten away, that really is a good analogy for what's happening to us. So oxidation is just a natural process occurring constantly within our cells. It's constantly happening to pipes in our house, but then it also is happening to us and in our cells, in the little tiny pieces of us. And as a byproduct of this constant oxidation, we have chemical reactions that require a great deal of energy. And among those cells are the ones in the ovaries, requiring that tremendous amount. So when oxidation occurs, which is constantly, free radicals are generated. So again, another term, free radical is a molecule that is missing an electron. And because it's missing an electron, it's highly unstable. So it's always seeking out a way to fill that loss, and so that it can be whole again and have everything it needs. So the problem is that along the way, it can cause some damage to our cell membranes and other parts of our cell, and also our DNA. So it can be stealing away things that we need, and just causing more and more stress, or kind of eating away at our natural balance. So what causes oxidative stress? What continues the free radicals to be there in our body? You may have heard of this as thinking about that you age much quicker as you have more oxidative stress. There's another term called inflammaging. That inflammation, or this oxidative stress, does cause you to age much quicker. So first of all, not getting enough fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, fish, and high quality oils. Getting too many of the foods that cause high inflammation, and we can dig into that. Cell damaging environmental toxin exposures. So that constant exposure to toxins makes it to where we have more of those free radicals, and we're not able to protect ourselves from those toxins. Poor detoxification leading to increased reactive toxins in our system. So we're not able to get it out of our cells fast enough so that it doesn't have so much of a impairment into our body. Insulin resistance or hyperglycemia. This is somewhat similar to diabetes, but not full-on diabetes. Low microbiome diversity and quality. Again, here comes the gut health, which prevents us from making use of our dietary antioxidants. So if you've heard berries and other fruits are really good antioxidants, they are basically they're taking away that oxidative stress. However, if you're not eating them, you're not getting them. And then also stress and not getting enough sleep, R&R, to allow healing during the nighttime. So during nighttime and when we're sleeping, we are able to detoxify and get rid of some of this oxidative stress. However, if you're not sleeping well, you're not allowing your brain to just be totally done and your body to rejuvenate, then you have more oxidative stress. So, I'm sure that you're already thinking about this, but I want to tell you that you deserve hormone balance, and it definitely is within your reach for sure. So, you may ask, how do I do this, and how do I start so that when I start, that I can also sustain this change? And that's really why I am doing this video or doing this Zoom call so that I can give you more education so you understand the reason that some of these changes need to be made. All right. So, first thing that I would recommend to you is the education that I like to give is based on this hormone intelligence, and that's where most of this information came from a book written by a Dr. Aviva Ram, and she is who educated me in functional medicine for women. And the book is lovely. And I do a whole education series on her book and break it down into little smaller pieces so that it's not so overwhelming. But that is something that I offer in my practice. So I would first tell you that you have an opportunity to either come to the practice and see me if you haven't already done so, or if you're already a patient and you've kind of fallen off and you've gotten distracted or things weren't just working out the way that you wanted to, or life has happened and you had to kind of take a step back, I would encourage you to get back into it for this beginning of the year and know that we can get you feeling better and that you deserve to feel better. So what I do offer is the deep dive package. And with that, you will have the right amount of balance of getting that right support and having the right education, and also hopefully having some dietary support as well. So in the deep dive package, basically I have patients usually see me first for their first visit. We get to know each other for that deep dive consultation, and I understand what you're dealing with, and then we start to plan how can we change it. The deep dive package would be something that you can purchase afterwards because I want to make sure that you feel like we're a good connection, that things are going to work. But at that point, if you're like, okay, this works, I would encourage you to consider this package. It is a package of 4 visits. And I believe that if you purchase the 4 visits together, then you will feel like you really need to follow through and finish with those visits. It gives you more consistency. It also gives you an accountability to yourself that, okay, I'm going to follow through on this. And usually we have to put our money where our mouth is. And when we put our money out there, we tend to follow through better and find more value in this. And you are definitely valuable. Also, as part of this package, I'm including a GI test or a stool test that's called GI MAP. And this test usually is about $425. So I'm adding this into the package because I do find for most women, even if they're not having intestinal disruptions or any major irritable bowel or bowel issues, that there tends to be an underlying gut issue of imbalance. And so the stool test helps us to figure out that imbalance, target it, treat it well, and then hopefully everything else is like a domino. And once you fix that larger domino, everything else comes into place. And so I do find that I'm recommending it for most of my clients. I do not utilize a lot of functional medicine tests because I find them to be somewhat overdoing things. Maybe they're not reliable, but then also they're very costly. This is something that I've found over the last year that I am starting to depend on for most of my patients. So I'm adding that in, as well as you will get a 6-week education course that you are able to do on your own time. And it is a nice setup like this where I'm explaining everything and taking our time to dig in a little bit deeper. I would encourage you to buy the book to go along with it, but it is 6 weeks. Those sessions are anywhere from like 45 minutes to an hour long. definitely lots of good information. And I really wish that when I had started my journey, that I had, number one, done a stool test, because it's taken me a while to get there and finally pay for it. And I found that really helped in my journey. But then also, I wish that I had had better education so I could understand why the recommendations are to change some major things about my life. Once I understood why, then those changes didn't feel so overwhelming and I wasn't so frustrated by them. I also didn't feel so scared by them or feel like I had to live in a bubble. Like, I understood how I could control some of those variables in my life. And so I find with my patients that if they don't have this underlying education, they just are not as motivated to make the changes that I recommend, or they just get overwhelmed by it all. And so this education really breaks it down and makes it feel like you have more support. And it really is almost like having a health coach that is coming alongside of you and explaining everything. And then last but not least, for a lot of my clients, and if you've already been working with me, you know that we tend to try elimination diets to see if food might be one of the culprits that might be causing some of your inflammation or irritation in the gut, or if you're having skin issues. So an elimination diet's usually what I use, or there might be other diets, the Mediterranean diet or AIP diet. I have a meal planning service that's called That Clean Life, and you will receive 7 weeks of meal planning. And that can be for every meal that you need or that you want. And I teach you how to use it, but you are able to have recipes for every meal. Every meal is planned out for you, and it is specifically within the calorie count that you need. Specifically, whatever foods you can and can't eat are taken care of. And you are able to change the portions that you are cooking. So if you want to feed your whole family with one meal, but then another meal, you're like, nobody's going to eat this, I'm just going to cook it for me, then you can change your portions. And then that spits out your shopping list. So you will have the shopping list for the entire week, and you are able to print that off and take it with you. When you are done with the 7 weeks, then you are able to download everything or print it off and consider that like a cookbook. So you can print off all the meal plans, all the recipes, and all of the shopping lists. So that will be yours to keep. And again, if you buy the Hormone Intelligence book, that book is for you to keep as well as a good reference. And for this package, it's going to make me work for it. So again, here on the slide, so it makes sense to you written down, this is what you get. And then what is the process? So most of you are already a patient of mine, so you don't have to do this. But if you're not, you can get registered on my website and schedule a discovery call. And then the first visit is $325. And then if you did want to do this package, which again, I highly recommend, I just think that it's going to help my patients be the most, have the most bang for their buck for this year. That package is $1,250. And I really think that it has a very high value for you. So after your first visit, if you think, okay, I want to do that, or if you're already a patient and we've already gotten to know each other, we've done a couple visits, I would highly recommend that if you feel like you're kind of stuck and you're not getting the traction that you want, that you consider this package as an option. If this package isn't a good idea for you, you do have the availability of just paying one visit at a time for sure. Or if you don't want the package, but you want the stool test, you can pay for that independently as well. You just need to let me know. But I'd try and make this a little bit easier for you. All right, so on this slide, if you are interested, you can click on the registration button and it will take you right to the website. Or if you'd like some more information, you're like, give me time, let me read a little bit more, let me get to know you, then you can hit the more information button. And then I really just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for taking the time to come and meet with me and to listen about everything that I wanted to share with you. And then also thank you for taking the time for yourself and noticing that you are important. And I encourage you to continue down that path and search for how you can feel better or feel your best. And I would love to be on that journey with you. Or if you have more questions, you're not really sure, feel free to reach out by the telephone. So, and the phone number is 317-659-6484. Again, it's on the website too at mymidwife4life.com. And so, yeah, please reach out and let me know if anything is fitting what you are looking for. All right, I will stop sharing and stop recording.